We are back. We are wearing hats. Just realized all three of us wearing hats. And the Wisconsin Badgers welcome the Maryland Terrapins to Camp Randall Stadium on Saturday. Is it a must-win game for Luke Fickell? Break it down on Talkin Badgers. Yes, it is Talkin Badgers, powered by BadgerNotes.com. I'm your host, Kedrick Stumbris. You can find the podcast on the website formerly known as Twitter and YouTube.com/@TalkinBadgers. Joined here by our beautiful co-hosts tonight, Dylan Graff and Ryan Eilers. Dylan, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. It's good to be sitting here talking about a winnable football game.
Ryan?
I'm doing great. It's always a great day to be 6 feet above ground. And we got a 2-1 football team heading into the weekend with a big-time game.
A 2-1 football team, yeah, and a big-time game against Maryland. Still getting used to that sentence, but that's what it is. And we got some other Wisconsin Badgers scheduling news today. Two pieces. One, we're getting a Big Ten basketball schedule tomorrow on the 18th of September. I am enormously excited for that. And two, a fifth change to the non-con home and home that will come someday when we're alive, maybe, against Virginia Tech.
And I hate it so much.
I cannot
holding my breath.
I cannot believe that they have moved the game, not in time, but all in physical location now again.
I feel like they're just trolling us at this point.
At the very least, they moved the game up 2 weeks now. They did not move it back again for a fifth time.
Yeah, they just hate the fans at this point, though. Like, if you like college football, the idea of neutral site, and I'll save us from going on a tangent, but if you like college football, neutral site games are absolute balagna. I'm so tired of it. Like, looking back, like, you can just go back to the college football playoff. Like, how cool was it seeing Tennessee at Ohio State and some of those other big-time matchups? It's like, looking back at 2015, like, Bama should have been, like, even if we had to go to Tuscaloosa then instead of Dallas, like, who cares about Dallas? No offense, Dallas, especially Coop. Rest in peace, Cowboys. Yikes. Looks like you guys are going to have to play a lot of shootouts. But at the end of the day, like, LSU, when you have one, what was it, Houston and Green Bay? Like, I was at the one at Lambeau. It was an incredible, great vibes. Should have been at Camp Randall. Notre Dame should, instead of being at Soldier Field, should be a home and home. If you like college football, you like the atmospheres, you like the pageantry, you like everything about it. And the idea of, like, if Badger fans wanted to see that Virginia Tech game and they keep updating their calendar, now you don't get to see them come out of the gates to Enter Sandman with the possible night game and lights rocking. And, like, imagine if someone's like, oh, hey, you get to play Wisconsin. You're like, oh, cool, I want to go up to Camp Randall and check it out. Oh, just kidding. You don't get jump around. You don't get the historic venue. You don't get – it's just like that's what makes college football beautiful to me. And you're just corporatizing it and throwing it in Charlotte and being like, oh, this is fun. This is a preseason bowl game.
You're not going to hear any different takes.
Off soapbox.
Yeah, I mean, what I find fascinating is that Wisconsin basically has like two of these now, where they have ostensible home and homes with Virginia Tech and Pitt. Wisconsin is getting true home games in both of those series, but neither of those opposing schools are actually hosting the other side of it because Virginia Tech moved the game to Charlotte and Pitt is the designated home team in Dublin in 2027. But Pitt still comes to Madison in 2026, and Virginia Tech still comes to Madison in 2032. It's like just a weird. Obviously, we don't know how the money and all of it works. And
I think that's exactly it. It's definitely money,
for us to find out. But
I can't imagine the economics of it is like, is the Charlotte Business Bureau or whoever's getting you to Charlotte, like, think about all the bit. We don't need to go on. I won't go on an econ tangent either. But I don't know enough about economics, but having it at home is going to provide more revenue, right, than just a neutral site game? Or is it like, I don't know. I don't get I've never got the neutral site games, especially now in the modern college football where it's like you can have big time matchups on campus and get great games. I don't understand it.
It is what it is. But let's talk about a game that is. Oh, wait, actually, I want to hit this because I think the funniest thing about this is that this game was originally announced in 2006, right? I got a reply to a post on Twitter today that I posted about the change. A reply said UW Tech had first announced a home and home more than 10 years ago. I was excited about possibly seeing them in Blacksburg when we lived in Virginia. The games got postponed a couple of times. It's been so long. This guy doesn't realize I'm talking about the game that he's talking about.
Jeez. At
Uh,
this point, just cancel it. What's the point of even having it on the books? Just get some directional school from Illinois to come up here and take their lumps at this point.
well, they don't always take their lumps when you invite the directional schools to Madison these days. Speaking of, the Wisconsin Badgers took their lumps inside of Bryant-Denny Stadium last Saturday. And I know there were a lot of people who were up in arms about it. I think, I tried on this program trying to level heads a little bit, remind people that this was what we expected to happen. So, you take the best and worst you can from it. But basically, we got two relatively positive data points with wins over Miami of Ohio and Middle Tennessee, and then a not so positive data point against Alabama. And so I wanted to ask the question tonight through non-con play, as we do a little bit of a look back, what are the best and the worst parts of this team? And specifically the position groups, because with all the roster turnover, almost all of these position groups look different than they did a year ago. So Dylan, I want to start with you. Through 3 weeks of play, what to you have been the best and worst groupings on the team?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and it's also one that it's so hard to project forward. So, I think all that you can do is kind of pull like what happened against those lesser opponents and then what still managed to translate against Alabama. And so what I will say is defensively, while I don't think it's filled with world beaters, for me, the outside linebacker room has been, pretty damn productive. Mason Reiger has been terrific. Sebastian Cheeks, had his struggles against Alabama. That's, I think to a certain degree to be expected, but he's been really productive beyond that. Want to give some flowers to Daryl Peterson. I think he's he added the weight. He's playing with his hand in the ground, and I think he's been a lot more disruptive. I think that they, as a room, I think they managed a certain amount of pressure against Alabama. Obviously, they didn't always get home entirely, but I do think that they forced Simpson out of the pocket, and I think that was really encouraging to me because they're not every team on the schedule is going to have that level of offensive line, even if that's not, the Bama line of old. So while I can't necessarily say confidently that is maybe the best position group on the roster, it's one that I think has maybe one of the best abilities to kind of project out for the year if they can stay healthy. And as far as the worst, I mean, I think that it has to, for me, be the offensive line. And it's not a new problem. It's one that I think that we spoke about, before the season began. We had our reservations about, Davis Heinzen's ability to play tackle. I think I've been pretty honest about that from the beginning. And, I think that it's very clear that the staff feels that way as well. I mean, after one game, he's just, he has gone entirely out of the entire reshuffle. He was not even remotely a part of the equation. And, quite frankly, I don't think he can be. And so the rest of the offensive line as a result has had to shuffle around, and I'm not trying to drag them. Anybody's going to struggle against an Alabama, but as we're talking about the entire non-conference slate, there was plenty to be really disappointed about with, when they played, their first 2 weeks as well. It's not like these were isolated incidents. I think a lot of people were I wrote a column about it, this morning or last night or something like that. And, I can be critical of the play and also acknowledge that it is not because of Alabama. It's because of what they've done through 3 weeks. And yeah, they're young, and Luke Fickell has talked about it ad nauseum, that they have 3 redshirt freshmen, that are playing right now. And to me, I don't have to get real long-winded with it, but I think at this point you just ride it out. you let them develop together, gain their experience, pray for cohesion. And in 2026, maybe we've got something worth writing home about. But it's a problem that's not going away this year. And it's been a problem against the lesser teams as well. So for me, the weakest position group has got to be the offensive line, because to me, it's pretty clear there's no solution on this year's team other than taking your lumps and improving and just kind of accepting it for what it is. And, the best are, for me, at least the one that I feel confident will carry over right now might be the outside linebacker room, which I think is really great considering how ineffective they were a year ago.
Ryan, best and worst groups thus far?
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to not just kind of probably go unanimous, kind of what with DG said, and I'm not sure what your groups are, but I'm sure it's probably along the same vein. So in an effort to try to pick something different of what I agree on everything about the offensive line. It's a man's game. So, I mean, at some level, you understand that young people are going to make errors, issues, penalties, all that. I mean, you just got to kind of battle through it. Although I know Bama is what they are, I'll never see an absolute belt-to-ass game like that in the trenches and then say, hey, they played good. Maybe I'm just, trying to be a contrarian, but I liked Corey, Cubberly, and Mandel. Like, I could see that them playing together, and then, in theory, they're going to get 2-3 years together. I mean, it's a portal era, so they could be gone tomorrow. But I like that center out to the right side. Obviously, you got Big Kev coming back to the left side. Your Rip's going to be gone at some point. I like the youth, man. Like, you put Hardy Watts or some guy in there. I trust Lozic. I know a lot of people they see the offensive line and maybe not necessarily. I'm a believe in him until I don't. I'm a little concerned just because the running game hasn't been hitting even against the other non-cons. I just kind of put Bama aside. There was nothing I saw from that game that I thought was like, oh wow, that's alarming. I mean, I kind of expected it to go that way. Yes, you can point to my tweet, but I was told by a lot of commenters that, we were so negative and we didn't have personality and we didn't have anything. So I spoke so positively and said we were going to win, and then we didn't. We lost by a lot. So apparently I didn't speak it into existence. So if I think about it, I think if I don't go outside linebackers, because, Rager the Tiger is, a beast. His Cheeks is good too. Very good. I'm kind of impressed by the wide receivers. I think that might be one of their better position groups.
Fascinating, because this was also mine. I think this is mine, Ryan. So yeah, please.
Okay, good. So I'm not completely up, to crazy town. I think, yes, has there been balls that haven't been connected? Of course. You got a QB2 in there, and even when Big Bill Edwards in there, Schlitz drinking Bill Edwards was slinging the tater. Like, it was the first quarter of the first game. Like, everybody's got jitters, everybody's got nerves. But, like, Vinny was wide open on some of those passes. Like, Alabama, we all can acknowledge, has a certain speed to them. I think Vinny, I think Christian Ballard, I think those guys, I mean, I know Vinny doesn't have a lot of time. I don't want to say SEC speed, because as we can see, the SEC is now tier 2 compared to the Big Ten, in my humble opinion. But they got speed to compete. So it's like, when I look at it, that was our biggest thing, is we never had speed outside the numbers. So I think part and parcel, I think the wide receiver room, when you think about Hilton coming up, you think about Pettit. That guy looks like a DK Metcalf Jr. coming up. That dude's just rocked up. It's like, you get him and you got Hilton and you got some of these young guys in there that can still play the slot and in a run-based offense. That might be the best position group now and then moving forward for a little bit. So that's probably where I'd go positive. I think the worst, obviously not trying to pick on the offensive line, I think the corners are a problem. Not because Rico's not good and not because Emilio doesn't have a bright future, but as Jay would tell you if he was here, sometimes short kings are beautiful, but sometimes short kings can't go up against 6 foot plus NFL wide receivers.
Yeah, and we're going to hit on that a little bit more in segment 2. So I want to put a little bit of a pin in that, but I think I agree. I think the wide receivers, I said this on the reaction show Saturday night. I think you can make a really reasonable case that the wide receivers are the best position group on the team for a couple of reasons. One, that speed, Ryan, that you mentioned. It's not something that we've seen from this room in a while. And I think they have at least 2 guys and maybe 3 plus who have it. Vinny Anthony, absolutely without a doubt. Jaden Ballard, who went down and got the ball on a go route. He's got it.
He's averaging 23.5 yards a catch. I know it's only 6 catches, but I mean,
Right.
He's leading the team in receiving yards right now on that.
Right. And it's one of those things where I think as a group, and this is kind of the other part, is they have guys who all play the roles that they're being asked to play all really well. And the go ball to Jaden Ballard is kind of the exact, like, perfect example of that, where they didn't have a guy who could do that before. You have Tretch, who's really good in his role. You have Tyrell, who's really good behind him. You have Chris Brooks Jr., who's really good in that blocker role. And you have Vinny Anthony, who's really good in that do-it-all role. I think they have guys who fit the pieces they need really well. I think the other part is when they have struggled to run the ball so much inside, they don't have a running game if they don't have the dynamic wide receivers they have right now. There is a way in which the wide receiver talent on this team is keeping the offense afloat, not just in the passing game. It's elevating them around it. It's making the offensive line, for all its struggles, not look like a complete abject failure. I understand if some people want to make that argument, but like, they've been doing some things, and we've seen Riley Mahlman going out and throwing blocks for Lance Mason, right? And that's a huge credit to him on that side. But you go to the other side of the line and you have Emerson Mandel, for all he's struggled, he's going out and throwing blocks for Tretch Kekahuna on a jet too, right? And that same kind of thing. Some of these skill position players have, I think, really elevated it. And I think the X factor is Jaden Ballard playing special teams down to the ball at the freaking 2. Yeah, Alabama went on a 98-yard drive, but
and still matters.
Yeah, that play that he made, though.
One group that I'd love to, touch on just for a second is, because I've been incredibly critical of the group, maybe even of the position coach, but the tight end room, even after losing a guy like Tucker Ashcraft, and who knows when he comes back, like Lance Mason, clearly a nice find in the portal in the spring window. On top of it, Grant Steck has had a few moments that have made you feel really good about him as a redshirt freshman. I think they've played really passably. I mean, I understand that, Jackson Aker is not actually a tight end, but like, I think he's more been a problem than anyone else in that room. And I didn't see that coming. He's whiffed on a ton of blocks and been problematic in, some cases, and someone who I think is an awesome fit in kind of what this offense could be potentially. But I just want to give some credit to the tight end room, because, the last 2 years, the room as a whole has produced on average 225 yards. And Lance Mason has 9 catches for 132 by himself right now. Steck's got 3 for 40. Like, I know it's not all about numbers in an offense, of course. Like, they help function in so many different levels, but they've been really competent to a plus, and they have not even been competent the last few years. And so I've just been really impressed with them, and I want to give them their credit because I've been plenty critical.
Yeah, I think they deserve a ton of it. All right. Moving on, I want to get to what Ryan said might be the worst position group on the team, and one I am maybe compelled to agree with. I think so far the team that has shown itself to have the least impressive showing is probably the offensive line, but the secondary got that ass torn up a little bit on Saturday. Did not look good. And maybe Ty Simpson just is that dude. I think there is a real chance that he made dang near every throw you could have asked him to make on Saturday. And there's a chance Wisconsin doesn't see another quarterback perform at that level the rest of the year.
Not going to hear an argument from me. He was spectacular. His ability to escape the pocket, even watching even watching back the film, there were a few times where they threw some nice stunts at him and they applied the pressure and he just escaped and weaseled his way out of it. And he played terrific. So yeah, absolutely. I agree that they're probably unlikely to face a quarterback who performs at that level again this season.
Nonetheless, the secondary did not have excellent moments. And I think basically every member of the cornerback room has had at least one moment in which they've looked really bad this year. Latimer looked, I mean, he got torched a couple of times against Bama, particularly Jeremy Bernard. I mean, torched Emilio Agard, made him look like a redshirt freshman. I mean, just completely broke through an open field tackle. Rico Hallman has not looked awesome all year. And I want to pose a maybe an inflammatory question about him toward the end of this segment. But fellas, is the secondary that bad? Because Malik Washington, I was watching Malik Washington in week 1, and then I watched him in week 2, true freshman starting quarterback for the Maryland Terrapins. And I said, he's going to make me believe in the Terps, because it's been 3 weeks against not very good competition, but he has 773 passing yards and 6 touchdowns through 3 games. I'm not great at math, but I think it's a lot.
And a rushing touchdown.
It's the most passing yards through 3 games by a power conference true freshman quarterback since 2018.
Did not know that, but he has looked spectacular. And I will say that I think that the secondary absolutely is a problem. I mean, and maybe the greater problem is, to this point, they've kind of put themselves in a situation where it's been man coverage a lot, and they're kind of putting some of these guys on islands, and it is not working. The speed is not there. Like they've given up leverage. I mean, look at Middle Tennessee State. I mean, all of our starting cornerbacks gave up explosives in that game. And yeah, you maybe to a degree, you're going to expect that against Alabama, but I don't know. They've been problematic to this point, and I think you see why the staff, for a number of reasons, is fighting so hard for Nizier Forkreen in court right now, because quite frankly, I think he elevates this room drastically, and that's no shade at the other guys. Like, I understand that Deani Hill is probably like a below replacement level guy. He's fine against, probably your average opponent, and he's not going to give you probably anything really against a higher level opponent. Emilio Agard is someone who he's getting his feet wet right now. He's probably going to end up being a really nice player, and these are the moments that come with that. But you're putting Rico on an island, and you're going to be playing a lot of really talented teams along the way. And I don't know. I question whether or not this room can give us a lot more. I mean, I guess for me, like my panic meter is up for sure. Like my confidence in them has dwindled quite a bit.
Yeah, I think part of it too is like when you're talking about can the DB room give you any more? As a lot of people say, sometimes you can't get any more inches, if you know what I mean. So when you think about it, if they say, can we get a couple more inches? And you say, I don't have any more. When you're looking at the corners and you got 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", we don't have size out there, boys. And I think that's the part that's nerve-wracking. When I was fine. I was going through it. You got like a pro.
Oh, man.
No, but I mean, context matters. Like I was looking at, I agree with you. 773 yards is good. Seven total touchdowns. 1 interception is good.
Yeah, but they did
also
play
be
Towson
remiss. Florida Atlantic, Northern Illinois, and Towson are combined 4-4. I mean, they're not awful. Would I have liked Billy Edwards Jr. or Danny Slime, aka Danny O'Neill? You don't get that name tag until you get a win again. Would I like them that have that same stat line? 1,000,000%. But I think the biggest part that like terrifies me is like just looking at the numbers, because at the end of the day, like you can say the opponents are the opponents, but I'm just looking right here and some of their wide receivers like Octavian Smith Jr., 15 yards a catch. They got this kid Knotts, 17.8 yards per catch. They got
like 4 guys over 100 yards and maybe 10 catches apiece. Like they spread the ball around.
And one named Octavian.
Yeah, and they got 8 guys over 10 yards per catch, which I mean that's you get a first down every time you throw it to them, including 3 over 15 yards a catch. Like they are pushing the ball down the field, which when you got 5'8", 5'9", 5'10" corners, not I'm a little nervous. A little nervous about that part. The Riger the Tiger better get home.
I get the whole like level of competition thing, but there is a level just of, and these are all just part of Maryland's team notes. So this is all propaganda to an extent. But their passing game has done things over the last 3 weeks that just most Big Ten teams haven't done in 2 decades or more. Like there's a line in here that there are only 2 Big Ten quarterbacks since 1996 to throw for 250 or more yards in each of their first 3 career games. Only 2 quarterbacks since 1996 in the Big Ten have done it. The other one is Christian Hackenberg. So I don't know. It's not like he's a Hall of Famer, but not a bad quarterback.
I think part of what worries me about our inability to be as effective as a pass defense, of course, is our cornerbacks, but it's the middle linebackers. They cannot cover the middle of the field to save their lives. I mean, there's a lot of things that they can do to be dynamic in the run game, and they have been. Want to give that credit if I'm going to turn around and be critical, but they've been carved up when they have been asked to, sit in a zone or be in coverage. And that's Tackett, that's Christian. It's both of them. And so I think that I'm just concerned about our ability to stop any team passing until I really can see somebody elevate, because the pass rush, they're getting pressure, but I think they can attack all levels of the field really. For the most part, I mean, our safeties, I think, have performed pretty well to this point. Zachman and Brown have been good, but I don't know. I'm concerned on the outside. I'm concerned in the slot. I'm concerned at linebacker. Our ability in coverage right now has been suspect.
Yeah. Dylan, to your point, there's Dalt Reed in the chat asked about the secondary. How much was the secondary and how much was the coaching staff not making adjustments against Alabama? They tried a couple of things. They tried.
Yeah, you can only adjust so much.
They tried man, and they're not fast enough. And they tried zone, and the inside linebackers can't cover for crap. And Ty Simpson tore it up. Whether another quarterback can so proficiently and surgically assess and dissect that zone, we'll see going forward. That's going to be hard for anybody, any college quarterback, to do with the ruthless efficiency that Ty Simpson did. But it wasn't for a lack of trying other things that they got torched on Saturday. Whether it's, the athletes that they were playing against is a different conversation, but it wasn't that they just said, well, they're faster than us. That's it.
Yeah, they certainly tried other things. And I think part of what you're saying, when you're talking about athletes, obviously Bama has athletes that not a lot of teams outside of Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan to an extent that are going to have left on the schedule. But the thing that terrifies me is not only, I guess I shouldn't say scared and terrifies, because I'm talking as a point where I'm actually scared. This doesn't, I got to stop making it about me. I could care less, I guess. But the thing that makes me a little bit apprehensive on the defensive efficiency is, let me just throw some of these numbers out at you. So when you talk about the middle linebackers or the inside linebackers, 6'3", 245, 6'5", 231. Those are the 3 tight ends that are averaging over 10 yards per catch for Maryland. So someone's going to have to guard them. And then you look at wide receivers, and you got a slot guy that's 5'11", sure. 6'5" wide receiver, number 84, 6'5", 201, 6 foot 182, 6'3", 213. Who is guard? You're giving up 5 inches per guy. And you got a kid that's slinging it right now and got all the confidence in the world, 773 passing yards. The Tiger better get home. He better get to the cage, because if Riger the Tiger and Big Cheek Dog is not getting to the quarterback, yikes. A little nervous for the DBs.
I think this is a really interesting game to see the push-pull between how much has the defensive line been actually really stout at stopping the run versus against Alabama. How much did they just say, well, we know we can throw and score as many points as we want just through the air? because I think we're going to have a better idea of which of that is more true against Maryland, because Maryland is also a team that has not passed or that has not run the ball much at all. They rank 124th in the FBS in rush play percentage. And if I'm remembering correctly, there's 124 FBS football teams these days.
Well, they're averaging 3.5 yards a carry, and we're only averaging 3.8 yards per carry. So
Wisconsin, I mean,
there's 136.
Kind of to Ked's point about like how we're going to find out whether or not our run defense is legit. Because I agree, like they certainly did good things against Alabama, but they also didn't need to force the issue running the ball. I mean, for reasons that don't need rehashing, they did whatever they wanted in the passing game. But to this point, Wisconsin's only given up 3 rushes over 10 yards on the season. I think that's really notable. I mean, last year they started out of the gates. I'm pretty sure all of the first 3 opponents ran for 120 plus against Wisconsin. So they've done a really nice job. We're 4th right now in the Big Ten in sacks. We're best in the league in terms of keeping teams under 10 yards or 10 yards plus per carry. The havoc rate is up right now. Like the defensive EPA is nothing to write home about, but that obviously gets inflated by an Alabama. I think that there are enough signs that where I believe there's a good chance, but Maryland's gonna, kind of show us one way or the other whether or not it's going to translate against the teams that we do expect to be competing against this season.
Yeah, and I think, and I didn't really flesh out my thought in full, get to the consequences of it. But the reason I think we're going to find out more about the run defense is because I think Maryland's going to be a test of can a team that's not Alabama just choose to be one-dimensional against Wisconsin? Because so far Maryland has chosen to be one-dimensional, but has not played a power conference team. So can Maryland be one-dimensional just through the air and slice up the secondary, or is the secondary a little bit better? And then the second order question will be, well, is the run defense actually as good as we think it is?
What do you mean by one-dimensional? Like, because I'm looking at passing attempts right now, and like Malik Washington has 100 attempts. And if you look at the rush totals, you take out, a couple of these backup quarterbacks getting a carry or two. Mm-hmm. It's pretty 50-50 split. Like I'm looking at 112 passes between the two quarterbacks and then 100 total rushes, including some quarterback rushes or sacks, obviously, because it looks like it's negative yards.
In terms of run versus pass split, the split Maryland runs compared to like if you normalize the percentages, right? So if Wisconsin runs 80, not 80, that's an insane number. If Wisconsin runs 30 offensive plays per game, for example, right? I'm just throwing out numbers. Versus Maryland 40. These numbers take the percentage of those offensive plays and how many times they are passing versus running. So like not just 15 and 15 wouldn't be equal there. 15 pass plays for Wisconsin would be 50%. 15 pass plays for Maryland would be below 50%. In terms of the percentage of offensive plays where Maryland has passed versus run, Maryland has had the 13th highest share of its offensive plays be pass plays in the country. So they're in 58.87% of their offensive plays are pass plays, and only 12 teams in the country pass the ball more often on a per play basis.
See, that's why I asked the question. We're all getting educated. Because me, just simpletons looking at it, it's like, hey, it looks pretty balanced to me, boys.
And like, yeah, I mean, most teams run something close to a 50 split.
Even Phil Longo.
Ostensibly. Any other thoughts? Is the secondary bad or is Alabama just good? I mean, I think the answer is obviously a little bit of both, but is Malik Washington going to tear that up on Saturday?
I think so. I think he's going to tear it up, but hopefully we're going to match it. I think to your question of is Alabama good or is Wisconsin kind of bad? It's hard to gauge. I know I got a buddy that says that 38-14 or whatever is a respectable score, but I also know that like they completely missed a touchdown on the first drive where guy was wide ass open, and then Ryan Williams dropped another one. So like and I know Wisconsin could have scored some here or there too, but like you're legitimately, if you're looking at it from a roll tide perspective, you're legitimately looking at like a 49-14. And I know I shouldn't box score watch, but 49-14, I would have different feelings about 38-13 or 38-14. And for me, I'm trying to compartmentalize why do I feel differently about them? Just because they missed those doesn't mean Malik Washington's going to miss those. And obviously they're not as good as Bama, but I think this would be a good tune-up before the bye week, because a lot of teams, like you look at Maryland, how they're playing, like in theory, like the Washingtons, the Indianas, the Illinois, the Minnesotas, I know they all kind of like have their flaws, but they're all kind of going to be on this tier. So I think you're actually going to get a lot from this Maryland game.
Yeah, that sounds right. And if the run defense stays relatively stout too, just overall, Maryland and beyond, I think there is a good amount of hope for this team going into those matchups like you described. So far they're only allowing 1.93 yards per carry, and that's 5th in the FBS, which is just spectacular. Okay, my inflammatory question. Is Rico Hallman the football team's Nigel Hayes? Where Nigel, if he wanted to simply cash in on NBA draft stock, maybe should have left early. And I think Rico's in a similar position. Not that Nigel Hayes has not had a successful professional career. That is NBA guaranteed contract with the Phoenix Suns, Nigel Hayes. But his route back to the NBA is maybe a lot different than if he had left 2 years before he ended up doing so. And I think Rico may be in a similar spot right now.
I think that's really compelling. And I guess I can't really say no. I mean, I think, Nigel Hayes is probably one of the more underrated Badgers players. Like when 100%. You look at his body of work, I feel like people are a lot harder on him than is warranted at all. He was a terrific player, but I think there was also a level of like everybody thought there was a little bit more of a gear there. And maybe where that's unfair is that we were coming off of, years of Frank and Sam. And we just kind of like when they moved on from the program and declared, I think we all just kind of assumed that he was going to step in and just kind of backfill and become like an 18, 20 point a game scorer. And that never materialized, but he was still terrific. And I think maybe the same could be said about Rico in the sense that like, we look at him, we know he's one of the better players on this team. And I think that we all do expect more than we have gotten. And maybe for that reason, maybe we hold him to a very different standard than I would almost any other player. Yeah, probably. Should he have gone? Probably. Obviously, there were extenuating circumstances with, his own health that affected his stock in a way where I guess we don't know whether or not he would have been drafted. But even now that he has returned now 2 years, I don't know that he's any closer to being in a position to be drafted. He's just 2 years older, and maybe the tape tells a little bit more of a story to an NFL franchise in a way that's less forgiving. I'm not sure, but I think that is a really fair comp. Rico's a terrific player. So is Nigel. Yeah, I think I could buy into that.
Yeah, so I have probably a 2-part answer and a mea culpa. So for the first part is I will pass on answering the question because I'm too ignorant to know about the Nigel Hayes. Like I like basketball, but I'm more of a oblong ball than a round ball guy. So I don't want to come over here and talk out of pocket like I know the sport. Like I know that I like Greg Gard now, and he can stay forever as long as the football program is this way, and I'm hard for Gard. Where
everybody inside American Family Field was last evening.
He was hucking that thing over the plate, just pinpointing. He looked like Shohei pre-Tommy John and gambling. My man was dotting. But when I think about Rico, so not only do I not want to compare him to Nigel because I'm too ignorant to make that comparison, I'm also very biased because I really, really, really like Rico. I think he's been a great stalwart for the defense. I think he was part of the positive culture change going from Jim Leonard to Mike Tressel and being like, if he was a problem, they would have got rid of him or asked him to leave. But the fact that he stayed time over time over time, when you see that defensive backs room just getting purged every year for whatever reason, and he still stayed and carried on the tradition. So I like him. I think he's one of those, like, when you have those players on your team, you're like, you're not living up to it, but you mean so much. That's kind of how I look at Rico. I also look at it from a standpoint of again, back to the inches conversation, I don't know that a 5'9", 5'10" corner that doesn't have the foot speed that has the foot speed that he has, I don't know if he's going to be long for the NFL. So if he can make some extra bucks staying in college for a few years and getting some NIL, I mean, in theory, he can make as much in 2 years on NIL and getting a possible master's degree than, bouncing around from practice squad to practice squad. I mean, obviously you want him to go be a professional, but it's like with NIL now, those fringe guys that were hanging on to rosters or, working at Ross until they got, a tryout, like maybe that's not a life he wants to live. You know what I mean? That's a tough road.
I think that's a
Very
really
fair.
fair point. I mean, look at like Nazir Forkreen's situation and part of the plea that he made, and I can't remember the exact figure, but it was something to the effect of like a year ago, he made $40,000 or $45,000. And this year he had the
That's
opportunity.
an entry-level job. That's a good pay.
Right. He had the opportunity now to this year potentially make hundreds of thousands of dollars was what was in the legal documents. And, that might not be available to a guy who is waiting for a phone call, to end up on a practice squad and kind of play in that game. And so I think that's a really fair point that, maybe if you're on that fringe, maybe it's not worth rolling the dice. And maybe the more prudent decision is to stay in college potentially.
I think that's going to be the route, though. Like, if you look at a lot of these guys in the draft, like, unless you're just like a freak of nature alien, like the Shamar, Shamar Stewart's his own thing with his whole whatever at the Cincinnati. We don't need to get into it. We're not a Bengals podcast. But freak shows like that, or the Myles Garrett, or the Micah Parsons, or the Abdul Carters, like, yes, go get your money. Like, you're going to make more in the NFL getting that second contract than you are. But it's like the Ricos, the Nazirs. Like, you even look at the guys like Corey Walker, like that's on the defensive line. Like, he's probably making more here than he's going to make in the NFL because he might not be an NFL player. So I think we're going to see guys, probably those redshirt seniors. Like, I think we're going to see that a lot, is because that's basically a de facto way to get paid when you're not going to the league, or you have a very limited chance to just hold on, make a little bit of money, get an education, and maybe set yourself up. I think it's all on the coaching staff too. I think that's a credit. I'm always very critical of coaching staffs because, it's very wins and losses. But at the end of the day, it is a college program and you're trying to set up young men for success for their life. And like having the network to be able to build those network connections, get those internships, make a little pocket change while you're on NIL. Or if you're one of the better players, that's not like the Ricos, like you could get a nest egg wherever, if he goes back to Florida or whatever he wants to do, like he could start his own business. He's got a degree. He'll have a little money. Because like, what is the Ked probably knows, he's a big numbers guy. What is the NFL? It's like what, 2.3 years, the average. So it's like
career length.
Yeah, it's I think it's like under 3. So it's like, and that's for freaks. And so it's like guys like Rico that are a little bit undersized. It's like, I'm happy he stayed. Good stalwart. I know I'm just rambling, but I don't know. I think he's good for the program. I think he's good to have. I think whatever we're paying him, it's worth it. If he could stay another year as like if he doesn't make the NFL, I'd love to see him. Like, he's done well for the size that he is. I think if you got more Xavier Lucas, Amari Snowden type bodies in there, and then you had Rico mentoring them, I think that could really provide dividends for the program and more of a tough Borland quality control for DBs.
The staff's always been super complimentary of his work ethic. Like, he
works his ass off.
Yeah, they said that so often. Like, practice is over and people are going home, and he's on the field doing individual drills. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, like he is one of the most like lovable players on this team, and and maybe that's where like I said, maybe I'm not always as fair because I in my head hold him to a certain standard that I maybe would not hold a Deone Hill to.
That's where my head went, was like, I think he is a guy who is a victim of the own expectations he set for himself a little bit.
I think that's fair.
But I don't think you would ever meet a football player that is the alpha that they want to be, that doesn't want those expectations. Like, if you ask Rico, like, hey, you want us to lower our expectations for you? It's like, no, they have the expectation that I'm going to be an All-American. Like, I think they'd rather want those. I don't think any player in a calm situation would be like, damn, I'm disappointed. The fans wanted more from me. They don't, our fans aren't going to want it as more than they do. It's their career. So I'm right there with you, Dylan. Like, I'm very critical. Like, come on, Rico, make that play. But then it's like, all right, well, that dude is also, going to be a first round draft pick, and he's 6 inches taller and runs way faster. Like, it kind of is what it is. So it's like, you're in great position. You just kind of tip your cap and move on. But I don't know. I think the stalwartness, and if that's even a word, and just seeing that room get depleted, and like he stayed, and like there's a reason Nizier wants to stay outside. I'm sure NIL's nice, but like Rico has to be a huge value add for that room and for that defense.
All right. The last big question segment here that I wanted to touch on was the quarterbacks. I hear some people want to talk about the quarterback of the Wisconsin Badgers football team. Not something that has been done in recent years, but new territory that this podcast is daring enough to venture into. Does Wisconsin need Billy Edwards on Saturday to win? Can Danny Slime, now Danny Slop, get it done?
Easy. We need. We can't have trends until we get. No, we can't have trends until we have more data. That was one bad game and one good game, a record-setting game, and then what are you throwing that for, bub? Game. So, Dylan, you want me to go ahead?
Yeah, you take her away. This is your guy.
I cooled a little bit on the Danny Slime for about 3 quarters, and then when we were down 30 and he got the first down and then still did the slime, I said, this guy's authentic. He didn't, he's going to be himself no matter what. And usually, like, I get annoyed, maybe because it's usually the other teams that, as a Cardinals fan and a recent Badger, this new iteration of the Badgers that don't win all the time, I'm used to seeing a bunch of people take BTA to us. And then you see them, like, their celebrations aren't as long. You don't do that. So I love that Danny stayed himself, despite being down by 4 touchdowns at that point. He still had some swag to him. I think to Ked's question, do they need Billy Edwards to beat Maryland? No. But if you like to partake in gambling, I think you need Billy Edwards to cover. I think Danny could do enough to move the offense. Like he's proved against Alabama that, like, yeah, obviously it's Alabama. You're not going to be that consistent against a really good team as a QB2. Maryland is not that defense. So I think he could do enough. I mean, at the end of the day, if he can't outduel a redshirt freshman and a team from Maryland, I think that gives us more information for 2026 than anything. Because I have to imagine Bill's going to be back sooner or later. But I think when we were looking at the numbers before, I saw that Wisconsin was like 7.5, and it's kind of ballooned up to 10.5. I think if you need to win and cover, I think that's when you need Billy. I think to win, you do not need Billy.
I think I fall somewhere pretty close to that. I think that you shouldn't need Billy to win this game if we are a bowl team. If that is truly where this group is, heading towards, if that's the top of the mountain that we're climbing, then
where did this come from? By the way, I'm sorry. I have. This is a new thing. He wasn't doing this last year, was he?
Oh yes, he was every week.
Really?
Every last week. Yes.
What happened?
The mountain that we're climbing. We're at least 18 months into this pit.
It felt like the mountain conversation last year was more about like winning the winning championships conversation. It feels like the tone of the mountain climb conversation is solely about this season now.
Yes,
we're on different mountains. Ed, we were at Everest, and now we're at like Lookout Mountain on 16th Street in Phoenix, where it's like you can get to the top and back in like 40 minutes.
I agree with your analysis on the mountain talk completely. But if that's the team that we are going to be this year, if we are going to win 6 games, they have to be able to win with Danny O'Neal. Like that, the talent disparity between an O'Neal and Edwards shouldn't, in theory, be enough. But for me, I think I'm
Ryan comment.
I think I'm at a place where I'm gonna say yes, they do need Billy Edwards to win this football game. And the reason I say that is, ultimately Danny O'Neal, I have some belief in him. I'm not willing to say that I think long term he is a a starter in a Power 4 program that is where we want to be climbing to in all of this. But I mean, he has not been. Yes, he had a great performance against Middle Tennessee State. He helped win us a game against Miami of Ohio in which he was thrown into the fire. It was not that good of a performance. I think that we get lost in a few moments. It could have been easily a lot worse. He's got more turnover worthy plays this year than he does big time throws.
Get out of here with facts.
And quite frankly, I think that he has had more turnover worthy plays than PFF has credited him with. Now, I'm not hating on Danny. I think that he has the confidence, the irrational confidence, maybe that you do want somebody to have in his position. Like, he actually believes in himself, and that is the difference between him and a Braden Locke. And so that's why I don't think you should need a Billy Edwards to win that game, but I absolutely do think that they do. I don't believe in this team and all of the ancillary pieces doing their roles and doing their jobs well enough right now on the offense to win this game. I don't know. I'm not saying I think Wisconsin is going to lose, but I do think that they're absolutely in a place where we need Billy. We need consistency. I think that's where we're at. I think we have too many moving pieces, too many unknowns, and I would take some vanilla steady quarterback play. I would.
I got a question for you. So if you're not watching the chat, I have two questions for you. Okay, so my first question would be, well, I guess it's not a question, it's a statement. So I was talking to a friend of mine over the weekend. We were watching the game at Buffalo Wild Wings, some NFL football, and we were talking about Fickell, and we were talking about other things. And we were talking about Danny Slime, and a buddy of mine made the craziest analogy. And I had, couple diesels in me, thought it was hilarious, but does he have Braden Locke's skill set with Johnny Manziel's mentality?
I think I do. I think that's a pretty decent analogy.
Like, same arm, tries to run, but
I think that he's got more there than Braden did on a few fronts. I don't know that his arm strength is like markedly better. I think on like short to intermediate throws, he's got a little bit more juice than Braden did. I think his deep ball is pretty comparable. But yeah,
my buddy was calling him Timu Manziel.
I think there's an element of that being like a fair take. I do, but I want my quarterback to have that, and I think that it comes from a place of he started for a year at San Diego State, and he's not I'm not trying to diminish his skill set. I think my greater issue is with the surrounding pieces, and maybe him not currently being in a place in his development to overcome the other pieces of the offense that I'm less confident in.
Dylan,
that's fair.
I think what I was thinking while you were initially talking was I want a starting quarterback of a football team if I'm a head coach who is cool, calm, and collected, who's going to go out and run the offense. I want the backup quarterback of my football team to be an absolute lunatic, Malik Willis running down the field and slapping his helmet. That's in two entirely different jobs, and I want two entirely different people doing that job.
100%. Well, that's the old argument. Like when you would see some of these quarterbacks in preseason NFL football, and you'd be like, "All right, I don't need the discount version of this. Let me get something wild, like you said, like the Malik Willis. Let me get Sean Clifford. Some of these guys out there just
Carson Wentz,
some Carson Wentz action, like those type of players. Trey Lance. Like, let's see these wild cards." But my second question was this was a great question from my Lord Lester.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
Yes. And so talking about the mountain conversation, DG, where on the mountain are we right now? Are we at base camp or where?
I think that we've gone ahead and we've taken that first step. We've begun that journey.
We found the trailhead.
The problem is I don't know if we have all the necessary equipment to reach that mountaintop.
Kid, are we at base camp?
I love this. Are we at base camp now? Question. This was hilarious.
That's the beautiful thing about live shows.
Honestly,
You get some crazy stuff like that.
To be even just remotely serious about any of this mountain conversation, like I think my biggest issue, a lot of people are like, you're going to point out the obvious, like, yeah, we have young players. It's going to take time. Yeah, I understand all of that. The problem that I have with it, and I do understand, of course, injuries happen, but it's the fact that we're in year 3 and there's not like, you don't look at it and see like a plan. I think if it was year 1, maybe even year 2, I'd be way more at peace with kind of rolling out like when Paul Christ, came and took back over and he started like 3-4 sophomores or redshirt sophomores on the offensive line. And they grew together into something really good. And you knew that that's what it was working towards. And I understand that might now be the goal, but in year 3, they've reached a point where they're relying on this many young guys. I feel like we're behind schedule without a plan. And I don't know. I guess I just, I'm questioning the architect at this point.
Dylan, we're issuing.
That seems too big picture, kid. Yeah. You better get on him. You got on me at Coop about our big pictures.
Ryan, you heard? It's where I was going. Is issuing a strike. This is November conversation. We made a solemn pledge on this show.
I can hear that. I keep waiting for a week where for 1 second I can believe in a future. I want to get there. I want it so bad, and they just can't give me a shred of anything to hold on to.
But maybe Saturday.
Maybe
Saturday. Anybody have any burning thoughts about Wisconsin, Alabama, the non-con, playing Maryland before we finish out here?
Yeah, I got something for all the crazy people. So everybody that wants to jump on or off the bandwagon because of Alabama, like, we got to start doing IQ tests before you ever get a keyboard in front of you. Because I love you. You're probably my type of people. You probably have the same brain as me. I'm just a big dumb dipshit. However, if Alabama, who still has a bunch of we always talk about, when, they're PC players, Fickell's got to get his own guys in here. Yeah, DeBoer has got a full cupboard. He's got an extra pantry.
What did we just say, Ryan?
No.
We're talking about team building now. What do we do? You don't get to call out Dylan and then do the same thing, but just use another team as the wedge, as the vehicle to say what you want to say. No, that's horseshit.
First of all, if you're going to talk to me like that, you guys get some more bass in your voice. Number 2, this merry-go-round is going to come back to the beginning. What I'm saying, though, is all the people that want to jump on or off of Fickell's bandwagon because of Bama, I don't get it. What happened in that game? My brain can't compute that people would see that and be like, oh, he's not the guy. It was Bama, guys. Like that, they still had all of Saban's players. DeBoer can coach. Yes, I mean, they haven't been great because, the same rules that we say for Fickell is like, oh, he's got to build his team. He's got to get his guys in here. Well, DeBoer is the same situation. He's in year 2. But the idea that we could see them lose to Bama and be like, oh, that was the defining moment. It's like, no. If you were going to have a defining moment, it was called Iowa or Nebraska last year. We cannot think of Bama. And I plead with the crazy people that if this is the deciding factor for you either way, like, please seek help. And I love you, but please seek help.
I think that's perfectly fair. I think that's perfectly fair. That game alone should not.
See, that's fair, Ked. See? Have some of that.
I get what you're saying. On the reaction show on Saturday night, I played back the clip of what we said about the Alabama game in the preseason show. I played it back on this show because I know everybody was getting #mad online. And I said, this is what we said about this game. I said, does anybody think anything interesting is going to happen in this football game? And nobody said anything because nobody expected anything interesting to happen in the football game.
Just didn't want to get embarrassed. And I guess we didn't get embarrassed. It went the way it was kind of going to go.
On the flip side, we on this network website podcast host a show multiple times a week about the Wisconsin Badgers football team, and we need these reactionary people to pay the bills. So I have no ill will towards them.
Well, neither do I. I love them, and that's why I can tell them as a loving unk here, get your head examined, because we can't be letting one of the best programs over the last 20 years be the defining moment for us. So I love you, but you need help, and I'll be your help.
My only closing thought on non-conference is, and this is not trying at all to get into big picture, because these are words that came out of Luke Fickell's mouth this week, was the thing that was bothersome to me was the comment about that we have to do everything we can to make sure that we don't lose each other within a game, within a quarter, within a season. To me, that is a man who is already terrified. He is about to lose the locker room ahead of the month ahead. That stuck with me a little bit. I understand the sentiment, but it kind of to the way that you had spoken about how we are perceiving the Mountain Talk this year. To me, that line stuck with me as one where this man is afraid of losing them again, especially if Maryland doesn't go well. I mean, I believe this is a must-win game. And to me, that sounded like a man who also felt that way.
Every game is a must-win if it's not Bama.
Well, win or lose, we will be here next week. I imagine that we'll try to come up with some things to talk about in the bye week. Maybe try to come up with some basketball thoughts, feelings about the schedule. Maybe do a little mock road trip off the schedule situation. We'll see.
Maybe we get Coop on here to do a looks like segment again.
Yeah, and then we can me and Jay can mud wrestle. We got lots of content ideas.
Absolutely. Some are better than others. All right.
I didn't say they were good. I just said they're ideas.
This has been Talkin Badgers After Dark. We'll be back next week. This show will be back tomorrow. I'm going to do Seamus Says with BadgerNotes.com columnist Seamus Rohrer. Gardner Fickell is joining the show later in the week as well. I'll pop on here at least to share some of my initial thoughts about the basketball schedule release when it happens. So until we talk to you all again tomorrow on Wisconsin.